Hello everyone and welcome back to the start of Season 3 of our F125 My Team Career Mode. Yes, we return this weekend here in Albert Park, Australia for pre-season testing to talk you through all of the driver transfers and even some new teams that we've got inside this season. Yes, finally, I've jumped back into modding on the F1 games. I think ultimately F125 needs it to try and make this game a little bit more interesting. And of course, we kickstart things with our reigning champions Ferrari. Charles Leclerc, 2 years in a row now, he's come from behind, he's clutched up World Championships. If you've missed out on that dramatic season finale last year from obviously Abu Dhabi, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. But for Ferrari, they won both championships. Both drivers seemed pretty happy with the team. Their rivalry didn't get too competitive. Leclerc was generally faster. Lando Norris was generally a bit more consistent over the course of the season, so nothing has changed at Ferrari, apart from the livery. As you will see, they've really tried to steer into a more kind of yellow livery on the car, and I think it looks absolutely fantastic. All of the liveries I'm going to be using are linked down in the description below. They're all publicly available. You guys can grab them if you're playing on PC as well, and I think, yeah, the ones that we've gone with are really, really cool. Ferrari kickstart the year, once again, looking very, very competitive. You know, they obviously reigning back-to-back champions. They're going to want to come into this season and try and make it 3 in a row for Charles Leclerc. They really have dominated during this ground effect era. A lot of you guys have kind of said that Ferrari are very dominant in your series as well. So will Charles Leclerc make it 3 straight? Will Lando Norris be able to fight him for a championship as well? Only time will tell. But either way, I'm very, very excited to see what will go on within that team. Next up then is going to be Mercedes. Of course, George Russell made it to Abu Dhabi, still the World Championship leader, but we all knew it was going to be very, very tough for him. Mercedes had an incredibly weird campaign during Season 2. They started the year fairly slow. You know, they were kind of battling at the front, but often found themselves at the 3rd quickest car. We got to kind of the summer break and suddenly they rocketed to the top spot. They were like half a second to a second a lap faster than everybody else for about 6 races. And then from about Singapore, Kota onwards, their pace just completely fell apart. One of the oddest seasons I've ever seen on an F1 game by a top team there. Obviously George Russell, Oscar Piastri, their lineup last season. Again, that lineup has stayed the same. They look to be, again, fairly competitive. They think they just tried to play it a bit too safe towards the end of last year. I think George Russell got a little bit complacent up at the front of the order. I think Mercedes ultimately felt they had a big enough advantage. They had a big enough car advantage. But unlike real life, apparently inside the F1 games, you can never count Ferrari out. And of course, came from behind with both Leclerc and Norris by the end of the year. And yeah, George Russell and Mercedes kind of left with their pants pulled down by the end of last season. Will Russell be able to try and compete for wins again? Will Oscar Piastri finally be able to deliver as the number 2 driver as well? Of course, has recently been buffed inside F125 with the default driver ratings as well. Moving on though, down to Red Bull. Of course, Max Verstappen, as always, no matter what car he's given inside F125, he is always going to be competitive. He is always going to be trying to fight for Grand Prix victories there. And well, last season, reliability dogged him. A few unlucky races cost him an ultimate shot at fighting for the World Championship. But as soon as Max was knocked out mathematically of that World Championship fight, he got very, very quick. He got very, very dominant in those last few races. As those Ferraris, as George Russell really started to kind of try and take victories away from each other, bringing points down and obviously that gap down. Max Verstappen quietly chalked up a couple of victories, and Red Bull very, very sneakily have built a very, very quick car ready for Season 3. And, well, I'm going to go out and say it. I think Verstappen is going to be a championship threat this campaign. Of course, only time will tell. Esteban Ocon has just hang on to that 2nd seat. Ultimately, Paul Aaron and Pepe Marti, neither of them in the VCARB team, really kind of showcased to Red Bull that they had the speed, they had the experience to go up against Verstappen. So yeah, still that hilarious lineup of Ocon and the Dutchman will be Red Bull's lineup ready for Season 3. But yeah, Verstappen once again looks very, very racy. And as we all know, you give the Dutchman a chance to fight for victories, he is always going to try and claim them. Next up then, we head over to MasterCard McLaren. Yes, a new title sponsorship for the McLaren team ready for this season. As you can see, those MasterCard logos emblazoned across the car. And our first team with some new drivers ready for this season. Carlos Sainz, of course, was with McLaren with 2019 through 2020, left the team, came back last season. He's still with the organisation once again, seems to be very, very happy, and of course led that team throughout a lot of last season's campaign. And of course, as you guys will know, if you kept up with last season, Yuki Tsunoda has left us and has actually gone to McLaren as well for the new campaign. So 2 of Max Verstappen's former teammates making up the McLaren lineup this season. Once again, obviously last season we kind of saw them struggle a bit early on and then were able to bridge the gap to those big 3 teams. It looks like they've continued to get a little bit closer once more after kind of that huge reset we saw at the end of season 1 for the McLaren team. They are slowly building back up to being competitive to fight for race victories. Ultimately, Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, all with a huge amount of funding behind them. You know, factory efforts. McLaren are still a customer team, let's not forget. But with those MasterCard sponsorships now, there is a lot of money being flowed in, and it's always impressive to think what Zak Brown has done with that team. Could we see Carlos Sainz or Tsunoda fight for victories this season? Only time will tell, but I am very, very excited. Then we move on to easily the biggest news ready for Season 3. 212 Motorsport, we have engaged in a technical partnership with the Cadillac Formula 1 team. Yes, of course, Cadillac, we're all well aware, they're coming in for 2026. We are really, really excited to see what they can do. But inside this alternate universe, they've come in 1 year early, and 212 Motorsports has now become Cadillac 212 M Sport. Ready for the new season. We've obviously kept Isaac Hadjar with the team and have obviously replaced the leaving Yuki Tsunoda with Alexander Albon. Yes, another really strong driver inside this game. My plan for Season 3 is basically do the whole season as Isaac Hadjar, and then I really want to see what Alex Albon can do in the other car. Of course, we spent a lot of last season actually with him being our biggest rival throughout a lot of the campaign, so bringing the Thai driver in, hopefully once again he's going to be able to, you know, bring some pace, bring some performance, and kind of again help us bridge that gap towards those big 4 teams as well. And of course, with Cadillac funding as well, it is going to be fantastic. This livery I think looks super, super cool as well. A nice red and black scheme. Whether that's going to be the colour scheme Cadillac actually go with next year, only time will tell. But great to see them in the sport, and our first of 2 new teams as we head in towards this season as well. If we can fight for podiums, that would be great. If we can obviously fight, you know, prove ourselves once again better than Aston Martin, better than Williams, and really try and bridge that gap to the top teams, that is going to be the big goal. And Williams, of course, one of our biggest rivals inside this series as well. So, you know, last season they obviously got the jump on Aston Martin as well. It does really seem like they've made some big progress. And of course, obviously with us poaching Alex Albon from the Williams organisation, they needed a new driver to go up alongside Franco Colapinto, and that role has gone to Pierre Gasly. So effectively, in this career mode, Gasly, Tsunoda and Alex Albon have all kind of done a bit of a round robin, if you will. So yeah, the Williams car, once again though, very, very strong on its weekends. Of course, we know inside the F1 game, it's a very, very quick car in a straight line. So Australia, Las Vegas, Silverstone, Spa, Monza, those are all going to be circuits where I think you would expect that Williams to be very, very quick over the course of this campaign. But yeah, Gasly at Williams, obviously it's something that was kind of rumoured about, rumblings could have happened in the past. I actually think it's a really, really good lineup. Obviously Franco Colapinto really did struggle last season, but showed some flashes of pace as the campaign went on as well. But will the Frenchman be able to lead the organisation? It's kind of us and them that are kind of trying to bridge the gap to the big teams inside this series as well. So it is going to be very, very interesting to see, you know, kind of whether we can work together to close in that gap, whether Williams are going to be a bit of a bigger rival in the Constructors' Championship this year, especially now after we have taken their big, obviously, star driver, if you will. Next up then, Aston Martin. Of course, a team that has in the past shown flashes of brilliance, as you will see Honda logos emblazoned across that car. Again, another kind of team that is inspired from Real Life 2026 next year. The Aston Martin organisation, their lineup remains unchanged once again inside this game. Obviously, Liam Lawson alongside Lance Stroll inside the F125 career mode, but with that Honda engine now, it is going to be very, very interesting to see what they can do. Of course, it's been, you know, Aston Martin have been one of those really odd teams in recent years that when they get it right, they absolutely nail it. You know, they can be fighting for podiums, they can be really upsetting the big teams inside the sport. When they get it wrong, as we've more seen in 2025, it can be a really big disappointment, but we know that their goal is to be fighting at the front, fighting for wins in 2026. Effectively, a kind of factory lineup, if you will. Honda obviously only working with Aston Martin, ready for the new generation of Formula 1. It is going to be exciting to see what these teams can do. You know, obviously partnering two kind of great legacies in the sport as well. And I think that livery with that white front wing kind of inspired from the Red Bull Honda special liveries as well, but combined with the British Racing Green, I think looks absolutely fantastic inside F125. And again, all these mods, they're free for you guys to use as well. And this one, I think, apart from our Cadillac livery, might be my favourite of the bunch. Of course, now with us being Cadillac affiliated, I guess Haas are technically our biggest rival in the sport. You know, two American teams now in Formula 1. Of course, Haas, more recently, have now started a technical partnership with Toyota, but for this season, they've kind of gone with a bit of a kind of Season 2 throwback, or 2017 throwback, I should say, from their time at IRL in the sport. Obviously, a white livery in more recent years, but they have gone back to black, ready for this new campaign as well. And like I said, I think it looks absolutely incredible. Ollie Behrman obviously led that team throughout the course of last season. Obviously, Jack Crawford coming in as well. Didn't really go well for Jack Crawford, but he has been kept ready for Season 2 of this career mode. So, again, Haas, kind of that backmarker battle where so many of the big teams seem to have made such a leap forward. They're going to be trying to fight for points wherever they can. But again, I think their rivalry, you know, with some of the other teams behind them is going to be very, very interesting as we get through this campaign. They were reliably quicker than Sauber, reliably quicker than VCARB, but there is going to be more and more pressure coming from some of those teams behind this season. And as always, you're always a little bit worried that Haas are maybe just treading water in Formula 1, but practice pace looks good. They might be a bit more of a threat as we make our way through this campaign as well. Then next up though is going to be the Alpine team, and as you can see, they have got some all-new orange sponsorships emblazoned across the car as well. I always think the Alpine liveries look quite good in recent years. Nothing will quite top the 2021 livery, but yeah, Alpine with some all-new sponsors on the car ready for this season, and it is going to be intriguing to see how they can get on as well. Of course, after quite a major reset over the last couple of seasons, you know, as a factory team, or what we've previously seen as a factory team, they are now running Mercedes power in this sport. It is going to be interesting to see how they get on. They once again have maintained their lineup from Season 2 as well. So, yeah, not many driver changes ready for Season 3. If you guys watched the members only video I did, a massive thank you as always to all of our channel members. You'll know that Season 1 into Season 2 was absolutely crazy. Season 2 into Season 3 hasn't seen as much change, so I'm hoping that maybe it does one crazy year, one more calm one, and then another crazy year between Season 3 and Season 4 then. Again though, Alpine, their main rival last year was Haas. They kind of were both safely better than VCARB and kicked Sauber over the course of the campaign, but obviously with that Mercedes power, they will be wanting to try and make a step forward, being more competitive, fighting for points more reliably, and honestly, based on pre-season testing pace, that might just be possible for the team as well. Then moving on though, down to VCARB, of course, a completely fresh lineup last year of Paul Aron and Pepe Marti. It very quickly became clear though that only one of those drivers would be keeping the seat for this season, and Paul Aron was generally the better of the two. So Pepe Marti, who is actually currently a Red Bull Junior in real life, unfortunately has been dropped from the game, and he is actually been replaced by ex-Williams Junior Zach O'Sullivan, which to me, actually inside this game, a fun little fact for you, I'm quite happy with. Zach O'Sullivan, actually a local lad to me, IRL. I didn't actually know it until not that long ago. But yeah, great to see him inside the game and a bit of representation as well there. He'll be going up against Paul Aron this season. Of course, both of them know if they're able to deliver, if they're able to do very well, then Esteban Ocon could obviously be under threat with the Red Bull team as well. But last season, the VCARB was, I mean, he never got a point. He was never really in the fight for points. Probably not helped by having 2 rookies in the car that ultimately didn't really know kind of where to take the setups and things like that. But obviously, Paul Aaron now with a year's worth of F1 experience under his belt, it is going to be exciting to see what he can do. I like the Estonian. I like the way he goes about his racing IRL. And it would be interesting to see if he was ever able to get a seat IRL in Formula 1. Maybe Alpine will hire him for the second half of 2025 then. But yeah, Paul Aaron, Zach O'Sullivan, I think they could be ones to watch. Easily though, the team that you want to be watching for this season has got to be Sauber. Of course, again, another team that has been going through a big change for 2026, and that is exactly what they've done inside this game. Kick Sauber officially becomes Audi Sauber Formula 1 team inside this game now. They were, if I'm not mistaken, the only team not to change up their lineup between Season 1 and Season 2. Sauber, since 2018, I want to say, have stuck to a pretty similar formula of, or 2019 I should say. They hire an experienced driver and a rookie. They let them run for 3 seasons. They did that with Kimi and Antonio Giovinazzi. Then they get rid of both of them and bring in another experienced driver and another rookie. That time around in Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu. Obviously, they ran for 3 seasons, and then they picked up another experienced driver in Nico Hülkenberg and a rookie in Gabriel Bortoleto. They've had 2 seasons together. This is Season 3. Hülkenberg and Bortoleto. Sauber, Audi, adamant they don't want to change their lineup inside this game. But of course, yeah, with that huge amount of funding coming in from Audi, you know, a works team now inside the sport, it is going to be very, very interesting to see how they get on. I think the livery looks very cool as well. So yeah, Audi finally making their F1 debut. Cadillac finally making their F1 debut. It is a good season to get into the My Team career mode, and well, hopefully we're going to have a lot of fun with it, and we're going to have some interesting storylines once again then. Of course, a few other little admin bits and pieces before we finish off. Ready for this season, I am actually going to disable the surface and carcass tyre wear that we run inside the game. We're going to be running surface only and just seeing, you know, whether it gives some better racing as well. And also, as you can already see on your screens, we're going to be running a custom calendar ready for this season. The Austrian Grand Prix will kick off things obviously out in Albert Park before we head over to Japan. Bahrain for round 3 of the year, just ahead of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix before we head to Spain, Canada, and then the Austrian Grand Prix, the reverse layout, ready for this campaign only because generally it seems to deliver better racing than the normal layout here in the Styrian Hills. Silverstone, of course, probably the most popular event on the F1 calendar, will see a repeat of last season with a double-header event before Formula 1 heads out to Belgium for the first sprint race of the campaign. Zandvoort after the summer break, and it's obviously reverse layout once again, because that one I think is really good fun, before the Italian Grand Prix, Azerbaijan, Singapore, Vegas, and Qatar to round out this 16 race season. Hopefully, I've tried to pick 16 tracks that will deliver some good racing and deliver some drama as well. But Season 1, or Round 1 I should say, of Season 3, that'll be going live tomorrow. Channel members will already be able to access it right now as well. A massive thank you to everybody for watching. Hopefully you're ready. Cadillac in the sport at long last. Yeah, be back tomorrow ready for the Australian Grand Prix.